Ambassador, the images coming out of Gaza, as you know, are horrifying. The British Prime Minister called the suffering in Gaza, quote, unspeakable and indefensible. He said tens of thousands of children are starving in Gaza. Why isn't Israel doing more to get more food into Gaza?
Israel is doing everything it possibly can. The problem is our efforts are being blocked by the United Nations. And the criticism from British foreign minister and other international figures should be leveled at the United Nations, which is refusing to allow food to be distributed in Gaza by any measure other than with Hamas. We are insistent that food be distributed in Gaza without the participation of terrorists. The UN has been collaborating with Hamas from the very beginning. We have right now some 900 semi-trailers filled with humanitarian aid, which the UN refuses to allow to enter Gaza because they insist that it be turned over to Hamas. We insist that it not be.
You sent us some video that you say is of trucks at the Kerem Shalom crossing. You say they're stuck there because the UN won't distribute the aid. The UN says that is categorically false. They say Israel...
UN is tendentious. The UN is tendentious. They are lying, and they have the people of Gaza on their conscience. They are responsible because they have been participating with Hamas from the very beginning. In some cases, it's understood because Hamas is threatening them. Hamas is a ghoulish terror organization that threatens people, that kills people. And many of the operatives that the UN has been using in Gaza have been threatened themselves. And therefore, they don't want to vie away from the process that they've been using until now. But the fact of the matter is, you saw those pictures. You have thousands of tons of humanitarian aid waiting to get into Gaza. But what the UN prefers to do, as it does almost daily in its condemnations of Israel again and again and again, is to point a finger at Israel and say that Israel is to blame for starvation in Gaza, when in fact, the people who should be blamed for preventing this humanitarian aid from being distributed in Gaza are the UN themselves. You mentioned numbers, thousands of people starving. The UN person in charge of the facts and figures is ignoring, whenever he releases his facts, it's Tom Fletcher. He ignores the fact that all of his figures he receives from Hamas, from the Hamas Health Agency, what it's called. That's a terrorist organization. So he just repeats these numbers ad nauseum from Hamas. They're then picked up by the legacy media. Then they're repeated by international politicians, and they become fact. But they're not, in fact, they're fallacious. Tom Fletcher said just a few weeks ago that in 48 hours, 14,000 children would die of starvation. Nobody died of starvation in those 48 hours. And yet, Tom Fletcher has not apologized. Tom Fletcher and his UN compatriots have blood on their hands.
It is not just the United Nations that says that people are starving to death in Gaza. There are many NGOs, there are many doctors who are in Gaza, there are a handful of journalists who have managed to get into Gaza who are reporting the same thing. More than 100 human aid and human rights groups say mass starvation is spreading in Gaza, while the IDF denies that there's famine in Gaza. Both things cannot be true.
No, what we're denying is that there's starvation that we are responsible for. The UN is responsible for any hunger that exists right now in Gaza. We are sitting on hundreds and perhaps thousands of trucks already ready to enter into Gaza. The UN refuses. They simply categorically refuse. You can send your journalists down to the Kerem Shalom crossing and see what you've just broadcast. The UN refuses to allow these trucks in because they want to assume the very same pattern they've assumed until now. What this is doing, Elizabeth, if we continue to turn over food to Hamas, which the UN is doing, it means that we prolong the war. It means that Hamas becomes strengthened. It means that they can hire more terrorists. It means they continue to control the civilian population. It means that they control Gaza. What did we fight this war for? To leave Hamas standing? Of course not. So the food must be distributed, and we will do everything we possibly can to see to it that more and more food. We want to flood. Let me make this clear. We want to flood Gaza with humanitarian aid, and we're ready to do everything we can. We want to do it in such a way that through the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, through other means, but not through Hamas. You don't. If MS-13 took over a neighborhood in the United States, and you had to fight MS-13 from their domination of a neighborhood, would you feed them at the same time? We can't feed Hamas, and the United Nations should not be feeding Hamas. They should not be collaborating with Hamas. That's our point.
You say, and I need to, thank you, but I need to again say the UN categorically denies that. You say the UN is working with Hamas, this aid is going to Hamas. An internal United States government review showed that only a small percentage of the aid that's taken into Gaza is being hijacked by Hamas.
90%.
No, a small percent, according to an internal United States.
Well, that's a mistake.
That is the United States government review.
Our figures are very clear, and we've made it public that 90% of the food going through the agencies associated with the United Nations are being diverted to Hamas. That is something which they have to change. Look, they refuse to cooperate with the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation. Just ask them that question. Let's say they want to continue operating with Hamas. Why do they refuse to participate in the dissemination of this humanitarian aid together with the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation? Why? Because it's not led by them? Is it a personal thing? Is this an issue of, who's in control?
No, the UN says that the UN says Israel is blocking them from driving these trucks into and distributing that.
The UN personnel are lying. Read my lips. They're lying, and they have the responsibility for the people, because right now, as we're sitting and talking now, they can move those trucks in through the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, but they refuse to do it because of some sort of ridiculous envy or whatever it may be. It's all bureaucratic, it's all technical, it's all nonsensical. The trucks are there. Let them start. Elizabeth, let them start by taking those 1,000 truckloads of food into Gaza now, right now as we speak.
One last question, Ambassador. Last weekend, we saw one of the deadliest incidents in a long time. Almost 100 people in Gaza died as they were swarming food trucks, and Israeli soldiers began firing. Why is the IDF using live ammunition for crowd control in these situations?
But why do you say it was an Israeli soldier that shot at them?
The IDF said they fired.
No, the IDF did not say that
they said they fired warning shots.
Hit anybody. There were warning shots because when people storm the distribution centers, we have to protect ourselves. But the IDF did not say that those warning shots hit anybody. We do have categorical proof that Hamas is shooting people going to the the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation stations. They're actually shooting at them in order to disrupt the alternative to distributing food through the UN agencies. So no,
you're
we don't shoot people indiscriminately.
You don't?
No, we don't.
And all those people who were killed.
That should be elementary. The people who are fighting are terrorists who kill people indiscriminately. We're fighting them.
Ambassador Yechiel Leiter, thank you so much. Appreciate you coming on the show.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.